订单来，外贸来，订单来，电商来，大小订单统统来。
The man in the video is the owner of a foreign trade factory, which is struggling to operate due to a lack of orders. Unable to escape the dilemma, he resorts to praying to the Buddha for orders.
开工厂的小老板们，你们创业开工厂后悔了吗？哎，我后悔了，我后悔了。开工厂这么多年的敞开下来，就是给房东交了几百万的房租，和留下一堆废铜烂铁，还有满身的伤痕，搞得自己精疲力尽。今天我们放假了，没活了，放假了，提前放5一。
Unfortunately, the gods did not answer his prayers and send him orders, so he had to temporarily close the factory and give the workers a long vacation. According to him, the factory has been in operation for many years, but all it has done is pay millions of yuan in rent to the landlord, leaving him with a lot of scrap metal and a lot of sadness.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
See you guys later.
倒闭了，几年的心血，拜拜了。
Chinese factory owners have already been suffering severe losses and debts after 3 years of strict pandemic lockdowns. They had hoped that once the lockdowns were lifted, they would be able to resume normal operations and make up for some of their losses. However, although factories can now operate normally, orders have disappeared. In particular, many clothing, electronics, and small processing factories in southern China mainly rely on exports. Yet, since the beginning of this year, foreign trade orders to Europe and the United States, the main export destinations, have sharply declined. Many large foreign-funded enterprises have also closed down a large number of factories and withdrawn from China, causing many upstream factories that depend on these large enterprises to close as well. Some people say that this is like a contagious disease, with factories closing one by one, and in some places, entire industrial park enterprises have closed.
现在我工厂的现状就是这样，这个月开机没有开有2天的机子，还有没得救啊？同行的朋友。
你像我们原来生意好的时间，几乎是天天要么钓鱼啊，要么打就这些。但今年我们都不允许我们自己干这个事情，都还是出去找一些业务，我们也接一些业务过来。为了满足工厂的，所以今年面对的压力还是非常大，甚至能加班，大家都很辛苦。
今天我们这附近又有一个300多人的服装厂倒闭了。这意味着，只要跟他有生意往来的那些供应商也好，卖线啊什么给他加工的也好，都要损失一大笔了。因为劳动局的已经接管他那里了，只能接给工人的钱，其他的供应商也好，无论做生意给他加工的也好，所有都没得结。
看窗都没有了，应该是倒闭了。你们看一下。这个工厂也是倒闭的，它里面有好几个厂呢，有3个厂，应该已经人去楼空了。
This is an industrial park in Zhejiang province, where many clothing factories are located. The video shows that almost all the factories in the park have closed down, and not a single person can be seen. The cameraman found a farmer nearby to ask about the situation. He said that almost all the factories in the industrial park had closed down. Even if some factories had not closed down, they moved away after seeing other enterprises collapse, thinking that the feng shui there was bad. The most direct consequence of factories not having orders or closing down is that workers are laid off. As a result, there have been large-scale waves of unemployment in many southern cities. This is a clothing factory that had just closed down, and many workers have been dismissed without receiving their wages. They gathered in the factory to demand their wages. A large amount of sewing equipment from the factory was treated as scrap.
走了一大半吧，走了60%左右啊。这个裁员最多的一个厂， 因为他现在不要小时工了，所以说大裁员啊。朋友们，现在给你们看一下啊，之前很多都是去办离职的，现在赶紧推工衣吧，看这里好多工衣堆了一大堆啊，这个工衣是要回收的。
This is a large electronics factory where a large number of temporary workers have been laid off due to a lack of orders. Many employees are processing their resignations. Dongguan Caiying Electronics Corporation is an electronic enterprise invested by Japanese businessmen and was established in 2010. Recently, the company had closed down and left China. Workers gathered at the factory to demand compensation. This young man said that today is the 4th day since his company went bankrupt, and the office that was once full of employees is now empty. He sadly tore up his business license.
今天是我公司破产的第4天了。今天来公司收拾一下东西，这个是原本是做满了的，这个是营业执照，没啥用。
May 1st is Labor Day in China and was supposed to be a 3-day public holiday. However, due to a lack of orders, many companies have given their workers an early break. An industry insider explained that a large number of foreign trade companies have taken a break until June or August. Of course, if there were orders in the factory, they would not be taking a break. This is a garment factory. The boss filming the video said that now customer orders are not ideal, and cutting machines are only operating every other day, or sometimes 2 days off and 1 day on. He has more than 10 cooperating factories, all of which have stopped production. Half a month has passed, and he has only received orders for 6,000 pieces of clothing. It's not enough to cover fixed costs, and the fabric prices keep rising. He has tried everything, including praying, to no avail, and can only persevere. Today is China's Labor Day holiday, the first long holiday without an epidemic. For the people who have been locked down for 3 years, they have temporarily forgotten their ordeal and have chosen to travel, leading to crowded tourist attractions and train stations. However, there are still a large number of migrant workers wandering the streets of the city, hoping to find temporary work. The Labor Day holiday has little to do with the lower class people, and they still have to work hard to survive.
出来打工能多挣点钱是最主要的。这些节假日，其实对于打工人来说，现在没有什么太大意义。唯一的意义就是能多赚点加班费吧。唉，努力挣钱才是最重要的。
This is an urban village in Haizhu District, Guangzhou Province. It is home to tens of thousands of clothing factory workers. Now, a large number of local garment factories have closed, and a large number of people are unemployed. They can only hit the streets to look for job opportunities. Although the urban village is dirty and run down, it has become a place for many migrant workers to live because of the relatively low rent. Located in the Yangtze River Delta, the Daistong Bridge labor market is crowded every morning, with about 100,000 people coming here to find work. Here, everywhere you go, there are people dragging their luggage and searching for jobs. Many migrant workers who can't find jobs can only sleep on the streets. As we previously reported, at Longhua Station in Shenzhen, many people sleep under the eaves every night. This photographer, Zhuo, has been paying attention to this place for half a year, and the number of people sleeping here continues to rise. The flexible employment touted by the Chinese government is no longer working. A large number of delivery workers can't receive orders and can only wait on the streets. Not only are factories struggling, the economic downturn is making it difficult for many shops to survive.
真的看不下去了，你们自己看，300多万开了这个店，周末一个人都没有。
The young man in the video said that his cake shop in Shanghai is closing today because business was poor and the pressure was too much. He spent more than 200,000 yuan, or about $30,000 US, to transfer the shop and struggled on and off for several years. Even though the pandemic is over now, he can no longer keep going. The equipment can only be sold as scrap. The owner of a shop in this video, a woman, said that times are terrifying with a large number of shops closing down recently. Those that remain are mostly supported by borrowing money to maintain operation. Now, 1/3 of the shops are up for sale, and some have closed directly. The phenomenon of physical stores closing in large numbers has also appeared in many other cities. The man in the video said that he thought life would be beautiful after the pandemic ended, but after the Chinese New Year, shops started to close one after another. In fact, after suffering a heavy blow from the pandemic lockdown, the Chinese economy is also facing the dilemma of foreign capital withdrawal and a cliff-like drop in foreign trade export orders, which is putting pressure on the country's economic recovery. Recently, the Chinese National Bureau of Statistics released a batch of data, which also showed that the Chinese economy has not prospered after the pandemic. Factory owners, small and medium-sized enterprises, and individual industrial and commercial companies are still struggling to survive. On April 27th, the National Bureau of Statistics announced that from January to March, the total profits of industrial enterprises above the national scale reached 1.52 trillion yuan, a year-on-year decrease of 21.4%. Among the 41 major industries in the industrial sector, the total profits of 28 industries fell year-on-year from January to March. Chinese official industrial data released on April 30th showed that China's manufacturing activity unexpectedly contracted in April. The Purchasing Managers' Index, or PMI, for China's manufacturing sector fell from 51.9% in March to 49.2% in April, below the critical point, indicating a decline in the manufacturing industry's business climate. The number 50 is the dividing line for the PMI index. A PMI above 50 indicates expansion in manufacturing activities, while a PMI below 50 indicates contraction. The latest PMI report from the Chinese authorities also showed that the new export order index in April fell from 50.4% in March to 47.6%. Not only that, foreign capital is still withdrawing. The Wall Street Journal reported on April 29th that more than $3.17 billion in foreign funds had been withdrawn from the Shanghai-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Stock Connect trading mechanism in the past 5 trading days, the longest outflow since November last year. According to a survey by the American Chamber of Commerce in China released this month, about 27% of respondents said they would prioritize investments in other countries rather than China, compared with only 6% last year. Foreign fund management institutions are also reconsidering their investments in China, such as the Texas Teachers Retirement Fund, which reduced its allocation to the Chinese stock market by half last year, and the Florida Public Employees Fund, which has abandoned its new strategy of investing in China. As a key pillar of China's economic growth, the real estate industry has also experienced a severe decline. Real estate and construction contribute about 1/4 of China's GDP and are also a major source of revenue for local governments. The economic downturn, industrial chain transfer, factory closures, and rising unemployment have also led to a decline in consumer purchasing power. Recently, a term that is very popular among young people is the new poor. They may own properties worth several million or even tens of millions of yuan, as well as cars worth hundreds of thousands to millions of yuan, but they find it difficult to come up with 10,000 yuan in cash. They have to use their monthly salary to pay for their cars and houses, and they live very frugally with little spending power. If they are unfortunate enough to be laid off, their situation is even more tragic. In this video, the woman had spent all her savings and borrowed a large sum of money to buy a house, but was suddenly laid off. Unable to repay the high mortgage, she could only sell the house at a loss. Now, she has no house and owes a large amount of debt, and is on the verge of collapse.
去年的时候突然想结婚买房子，都找了父母给亲戚借了100万，买了套280万的房子，首付了100万，装修花了30万，月供12700，要还20年。但是万万没有想到，经济不景气，公司直接倒闭了。所以买房子没得好久，我都失业了。现在我老公的公司也在大面积的裁员，还不行，他也失业了，全家都没得收入来源， 只选择卖房子。现在不但房子没得了，首付款也没得了，装修款也打进去了，还倒欠了银行一大笔钱。